Welcome to the Smiles Are Wild channel, brought to you by Pediatric Dental Associates in Orthodontics. My name is Amy Morgan. We will be bringing you fun and educational videos weekly to help you take better care of your child's oral health care needs at home and on the go. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to see all of our new videos. And remember, it doesn't really matter how you take care of your teeth as long as you take care of them from the beginning. Good morning, everyone. I just want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Amy Morgan. I'm the marketing coordinator here for Pediatric Dental Associates in Orthodontics. We are going to be going live here in just a moment with a huge announcement. It's actually something that some of you may already be familiar with, but we want to go ahead and announce that here in just a few minutes. We are going to do some of the lovely things we have to do at the beginning of this to get everything started. We're going to make sure you can hear us as well. So first thing I want to make sure is that if you are watching this and you're watching the replay, please go ahead and let us know that you're watching in the comments. You can easily just do that by typing #replay. That just kind of lets us know who's coming back and actually watching the videos once they're posted on our feed. We would really appreciate to know that. You can also let us know where you're watching from and maybe even who shared this video that brought you here. And that just kind of helps us know where our content is getting out to, things like that. If you are watching this video, most likely you are watching it on Facebook, so we want to make sure that you are following us on our Facebook page so that you can get all the notifications for our content, plus our contest, all that information. So go ahead and click the like button up there on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on other social media sites such as Instagram, YouTube, we have a Twitter, and everything can pretty much be found by searching Smiles Are Wild. YouTube, maybe you have to search the full office name, which is Pediatric Dental Associates in Orthodontics. And then we also have a podcast that's available on iTunes and Spotify. So if you like the subject that you're hearing about, but maybe you don't have time to sit around and watch the video, most of that educational content is put over onto our podcast, which can be found by searching Smiles Are Wild. All right, I see we do have some people who have joined us. We have Miss Juanita and Miss Laura. So if you will just let me know that you can hear me, that would be appreciated. Last week we had a little bit of a sound problem, so I'm just double checking to make sure that our sound is working today and that the clarity of the video is good. So if you can just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me and see me okay, then we'll get started with the content this morning. And I just want to say thank you all for jumping on to watch this video with us this morning. We did have some pretty crazy severe weather in our area last night, so I hope everyone is okay. I know that there was one tragic moment with that and so far that we're aware of. So I hate to hear that, and our thoughts and prayers are with that family for that. Okay, thank you, Laura, so much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, just to recap, make sure that you hit the like button on whatever social media channel you may be watching us here. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram by searching Smiles Are Wild. If you have friends and family who are trying to find this video that you haven't shared it just yet, which you should share it, then they can always search us here on Facebook by searching Smiles Are Wild as well. It's also our website, smilesarewild.com. So pretty much anywhere you're trying to find us, if you just want to type that in, you should be able to locate that information. So today is Monday, October 21st, and like I said at the top of this, we have a huge announcement today, and that is that our hunt for the golden pumpkin is officially starting tomorrow. So what that contest is we paint miniature pumpkins and we hide them around the Northwest Arkansas area. Right now there's about 40 to 50 pumpkins. 4 of those are spray painted solid gold. Those are considered the golden pumpkins. There are only 4 golden pumpkins. There are 40 or so regularly painted pumpkins with different colors and fun stuff on them, but they are not the golden pumpkins. However, every pumpkin counts for something. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to go follow. First step is you need to follow us on Instagram. We will only post the clues on Instagram. So even if you don't have Instagram, I need you to go download it on your phone. Because if you're watching us on Facebook, you should know how to download the stuff for Instagram. You're going to follow us on Instagram by searching Smiles Are Wild. Hit the follow button. We'll follow you back. And then starting tomorrow, we will start announcing clues of where the pumpkins are hidden. So the first couple days, we kind of just make it to where you have to search a little harder If the pumpkins aren't being found, we'll try to get on there and answer questions. But we're not going to come on there and tell you exactly where it is. I know people tried to ask that last year and crack me up. But so what you need to do is you need to be looking for any pumpkin. So when we post the picture of the pumpkin, then you can go to the location where you think it is. You'll find the pumpkin. There'll be a tag on the pumpkin that tells you what to do. So if you're on Instagram, you're going to take a picture of you or your child with the pumpkin, and you're going to use the correct hashtag, which is located on the tag, and we'll have some more information about that. Or you can bring it to our office. If it's a colored pumpkin, not a golden pumpkin, then that is an entry in to win a gift card. Okay, so the pumpkin is an entry. If you find it, you are one of the lucky winners that gets to get into the drawing for a $200 gift card. The golden pumpkins, let me be very clear, these are spray painted gold. They are plain gold. They have nothing else on them but the tag. Those are automatic winners, and we can verify that for you once you post a picture. We can let you know if it was the actual golden pumpkin or if it was one of our just regular pumpkins, which is also still really cool to get into the drawing for that. And so there will only be approximately 50 people in our area who will either be, 4 of them will be automatic winners. The other 45 or so will be entered in to win a $200 gift card. So it's kind of fun. What we'll do is we'll post clues. We'll say this one's been hidden. You know, it may start off with just this one's in Fayetteville at a park or something like that. And then once they're found, we try to come back onto the post and comment that it's been found so that you won't have to continue to look for that one. So we're really super excited about it. It becomes really challenging towards the end. We will not post clues for the golden pumpkin until a little later. So those are going to get hidden and possibly just randomly found. And so if you find one of those without the clue, you're really good. So again, there'll be 4 golden pumpkins and then a bunch of random ones. I do have just a couple of minutes before we get started on the content. Does anybody have any questions about that I can answer here live for you? You can also email me. It's amy@smilesarwild.com. You can also call the office and ask for me. Sometimes that's a little bit harder. If you just sent me an email, I could probably answer it faster. You can also DM us on Instagram directly. And if you have any questions about it, again, I can't tell you exactly where it is. They will be posted at random times. We're going to go ahead and hide them at different times. So you may find them without a clue. So what we're going to try to do is if those are found, we're not going to post those. So we'll post the finder of them, but we won't post the actual clue. So it can get kind of a little bit crazy over the next 10 days. And that contest will run, we'll run it until all 4 golden pumpkins are found, but normally that is completed by Halloween. So around the next 10 days is when you're going to be looking for that information. Again, you have to be following us on Instagram to be a part of this contest. Facebook will not allow us to see tags and things like that. So Instagram is a much easier way for us to keep up with that. Plus, we do different contests on both platforms. So you want to make sure you're following us in both areas anyway. Like this video doesn't play live on Instagram. We'll go post that we're starting it, but they don't actually get to see this content just on our Instagram page. So we have different things that happen on both things. So the shares and the likes and everything for this post is a Facebook contest versus like the pumpkin hunt is going to be something that we do exclusively on Instagram. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Heather, I see you on there. I know you're excited about it. I think you've asked a couple of times if we were going to do that. So of course we're going to do it. We think it's really fun. We think it gets the community kind of, into some big contest, and it can become quite competitive actually. I think last year we had like 2 or 3 people at the same site at the same time, like walking around trying to find this pumpkin, and it was quite the debacle, I will say. But so we are starting that. They will be starting to be hidden maybe even later this evening, but for sure there'll be some out tomorrow. If you have any questions, again, email me, call me, or DM me directly on Instagram. DMing directly on Instagram is probably honestly one of the fastest ways, and then email and then call. But that's just up to you. Okay, so we've announced that. Make sure you're sharing this content with your friends and family. Let them know. The more you're sharing, the more likely it is that you might, win something extra. I'm going to be doing some random drawings throughout the next 10 days. If I see you posting on your Instagram about the hunt, trying to get your friends and family involved in that, the more things I see of you sharing and talking about it, the more likely is that maybe I will shoot you a surprise gift or something like that. So just be mindful of that, spread the word. I know it's sometimes not so fun to like leak out all the information because you want to be the winner. So maybe even after you found a pumpkin, then you can release that you're doing that, and then you can explain it to other people so that they have a chance to do that as well. Again, it should be super fun. Okay, things get crazy. And it was cold. Yes. Yes, it got a little nuts, and it's okay, but it was fun. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started with today's actual educational content, which is related to Halloween, in that we want to talk a little bit about orthodontic do's and don'ts, which has, a lot of in here about candy. But first, we want to just say a disclaimer. We understand that Halloween is coming up. The kids are going to be going trick-or-treating. And we just want to make sure that you guys understand that as the dentist, we are not trying to say that they should not have candy. We completely understand that it's fun for them. We know some kids have allergies to candies and different things that are in candies, so we understand about that. I know that Hedberg is trying to put on an allergy-free event, which sounds really cool. And so there are things that come into play, but overall, we're addressing this as your child's gone trick-or-treating, now they have all this candy, now what, right? So the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that you understand that, eating the candy is okay. They just have to make sure that they're brushing and flossing after they've had candy. So if they get home that night from trick-or-treating and they want to have a few pieces of candy, that's totally fine. I talked to Dr. Jerry earlier when I was preparing for this live. And, from a health standpoint, it's not exactly wise as far as like eat all the candy in one sitting because their stomachs are going to hurt. But the prolonged access to the candy is what's going to damage their teeth. So if you let them have a couple pieces on Halloween and then a couple pieces the next day and a couple pieces the next day and the next day and the next day because you're trying to divide it up, that is where you're going to start seeing the actual damage to their teeth if you are not staying on top of the brushing and flossing. The other thing is be mindful if your child's already had cavities and they have fillings in or they have crowns on, that they don't need to eat any of the stinky candies. So no Laffy Taffies, no caramels, no suckers that they have to bite into where they could break out that filling or anything that could pop off a crown. Those are the kind of the things that you have to think about with the candy before they just dive in. So be mindful, that dental work, it took a lot for them to get that done. It was possibly a large expense for your family. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of that work that they've already had completed. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into more of what happens when they're in orthodontics. So this is Orthodontic Health Month. So we've been trying to do a series. We started off at the first Monday of the month. We talked to Dr. Jason, kind of learned a little bit about him, why he's an orthodontist, what orthodontics is, and how he and his team can take care of you from the standpoint of orthodontics. Then last week we had Lorena on. She talked a little bit about how the process goes once you and your family decide to put you or your child in braces, kind of how that appointment would go, how to clean them. From that, we got a lot of really good feedback. So we're going to be developing some videos that are specifically for that aren't necessarily this format on a live, but there'll be a series of YouTube videos that you can actually just scan and go to when they start braces so they can see step by step of what could happen during an appointment, how to clean their braces, different things like that. So we're going to be starting on that. And then today we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts and how to care, for your orthodontic appliances when you are actually in the orthodontic process. So when you come in for that appointment, they go over a lot of details and they send home a lot of information. But what I consider one of the most important things that they send home is your bracket care list. So we used to call this the no-no list. It looks a little bit different than this. I've printed off just a copy off the printer. It comes in a hard stock copy. And it just talks about tips and guidelines to keep your new hardware clean and intact. So the number one thing they have at the top is we call it the blacklist, and that's basically the no-no list. And it's saying avoid consuming foods with a hard, chewy, or sticky texture. These would include ice, any type of taffy. Don't chew on pens and pencils. Beef jerky, that can be really tough to tear into, and so that force as they're breaking it apart can actually make a bracket or a wire pop off. Hard candy such as suckers, What they mean by that is they can suck on them like a sucker, but they don't need to like bite into them, which can again damage the appliances. Any kind of shelled nuts, any kind of tough breads, and gum. So bubble gum it can get stuck all in their brackets, but sugarless bubble gum is totally fine. So if it's sugarless, it's not going to stick. And in fact, this is kind of an off thing, but when I was in braces, to get rid of like the soreness, they told me to choose sugar-free gum because it would help with the biting action, would actually help me get used to the braces and keep my teeth from hurting. And it actually did work. It was very, very, very cool. Okay, so that's what we're going to avoid. We're going to avoid anything that's hard, chewy, or sticky. And this is also important for anybody that has dental work done, crowns, fillings, things like that. That can apply to that as well, but specifically orthodontics, this will help your brackets stay on better. It'll keep things from being too sore and just keep things, where they need to be between appointments. And then the next section is called slice and dice. It just says eat what you love, but in bite-sized morsels. So it says, for example, with popcorn, you want to avoid the kernels. So the kernels are too hard for that. You want to slice up your apples, not bite into them with your front teeth. You need to grate carrots or slice carrots instead of like biting into them just directly off of the actual carrot. Chips, you want to be very careful of the edges to keep you from jabbing into your gums and things like that. But also if they're too crunchy or they're kind of like a pork rind type thing, those are almost like too hard to crunch into while you are in braces. Because again, it can hit the wire, which will then make the bracket put too much force on the bracket, which could make the bracket pop off. Just so you're aware, braces are made, because they know, and they know you're going to be eating. They know you're going to be eating these things. So these are just things to try to avoid. We understand you can't avoid everything, but you're more likely to not have to come in for extra appointments, such as broken wires or brackets that have come off if you're eating the correct things. It also says to make sure you're cubing out your meat. So make sure you're not like just pulling off like on beef jerky or steak or anything, that you're actually like cutting it into small portions. And then pizza crust as well is something that you should technically avoid unless it's a softer crust. And then at the very bottom, and this should be pretty obvious, it just says to know your limits. So as a general rule, avoid consuming lots of sugar or at least brush immediately afterwards to avoid cavities around the brackets. So that's really important because once you've eaten something that's candy or sugar, it's just going to sit there on your teeth all day and start forming whatever it needs to form around your teeth, collecting bacteria, things like that. And that's where last week's kind of series went into keeping your brackets clean and things like that, is especially when you've had something sticky that is going to continue to, if they're to eat later, they haven't brushed after they've had this sticky substance, and then they come in to eat later, whatever they're eating then, it's also just going to stick to that sticky surface, okay? So you may not necessarily be able to see it all the time, which is why you need to make sure you're doing a full brush after you've had anything like that. It also says, remember, this is not an all-inclusive list. It is a guideline for types of foods to avoid. Broken braces will result in longer treatment time, so help us help you. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying, just that, things happen and we completely understand. A wire could shift and start poking in the back, or a bracket could, for some odd reason, pop off. They are made to sustain all of the forces that we're talking about, but sometimes there's just that little certain angle that can make it do something differently. And this can keep your treatment on track as far as completing your treatment on time, because if you have a bracket that comes off and then you can't get into us for some reason, like you have a basketball game and you can't come at the time, or they can't miss school for whatever reason, or you're on vacation, that's a week or so that they've had that bracket off, which means that they're not, their teeth aren't moving. And so it's just prolonging treatment, okay? So we just want to make sure that as soon as you have something like that happen, you contact our office so we can kind of let you know what we want to do. A couple days is not going to delay treatment that way. It's usually when they've had a broken bracket, they don't say anything and they don't come in for their, then they skip a 6 to 8 week appointment, think it's not a big deal. It's those kinds of things. So if you're staying on top of it, we should be fine. But again, as long as you are following the majority of the guidelines that are provided for you on the paper that we give you, then you shouldn't be having these issues during your orthodontic treatment. And again, we are going to go a little bit more in depth into that on a YouTube series at some point. So we will be talking about that a little bit more in depth. We would love to know what kind of questions you might have about that. If you have a child that's in braces that's dealt with a certain issue that maybe wasn't on this list, we would love to know that as well. Again, another thing that was on the blacklist was pens and pencils. And that's just a reminder to your child, just, if they end up having a problem with their brackets or their wires, you might ask them, are you chewing on pencils? Or if they're a pencil chewer or they put the pen in their mouth all the time, you might just say, you can't do that when you're on ortho. And then maybe that even breaks the habit, during that time frame. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, you can email me directly. My email is amy@smilesarwild.com. I have direct access to Dr. Jason. He's our orthodontist here. And I can also talk to his staff about any questions that you may have. Again, we just want to reiterate, this is not like the list of the only things you need to avoid or the only things you can't have during orthodontics. It is literally just a guideline to kind of let you know. We can't say every single thing that everybody shouldn't eat or should eat because it also varies child to child. So we're happy to talk about that. If you are interested in having an orthodontic consult with Dr. Jason, those are free and complimentary. They come with the x-rays, an exam, everything you need, including a treatment proposal where we can kind of tell you what we think you or your child would need for orthodontics. You can call our office to schedule those. Our number is 582-0600. We will be wrapping up this series about Orthodontic Health Month next week by talking about retention, which just means like wearing your retainers, what the aftercare process is after you are out of braces, and how the best ways to make that last a lifetime. So we know that financially for a lot of families, orthodontics is very expensive, and it's affordable as far as like our affordable payment plans, but it is, it's a large thing that families have to deal with. And so prolonged into adulthood, you want to make sure that your child is wearing their retainer properly when they're supposed to, following up with the orthodontist. I know even for us, sometimes we get calls from adults who are still wearing their retainers, and they need a new one because they have been, still even wearing it, once a week or once a month, for the history for their whole lifetime. So, there are things that will come up, even after they're 16 and got their braces off. That doesn't mean that they're just done with everything. They still have to continue to wear their retainer to be able to maintain the work that Dr. Jason has done. I know for me, even my personal example is that I had braces 6th through 8th grade, had those taken off, and then I did not wear my retainer. So as an adult, I ended up in braces for 3.5 years. And he had to do a lot of movement because a lot of things changed over that time frame. So we're just trying to kind of eliminate that issue, not to say that we're not here if something was to relapse, but we want to be able to give you the best information so that you can take care of that, all the way through the lifetime of you or your child's teeth. Okay. All right. So that's where we're going to end today. We appreciate you all watching, for sharing our content. We hope that you will go and possibly listen to our podcast on iTunes or Spotify. Follow us on Instagram @SmilesAreWild. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and go visit us on smilesarwild.com.